My name is Anna. I was only 15 years old when my world ended in a way no one expected. It was an ordinary morning, the kind of morning where the sun comes through the curtains in thin lines, where you can still hear the dishes clinking in, the kitchen and your father calling that you'll be late for school. Ordinary until it wasn't. I remember clutching my chest, a sudden weight pressing down as if invisible hands were squeezing the life out of me. My breath cut short, my vision blurred. My mother's scream broke through the air as my body collapsed to the floor. There was chaos, running feet, my father dialing emergency services with trembling hands, my little brother crying in the corner, not understanding why his sister wasn't moving. The ambulance arrived faster than I thought possible, yet time felt stretched. Sirens wailed like a sorrowful hymn. The paramedics placed me on a stretcher, voices sharp and overlapping. "She's seizing! Pulses dropping! Clear the line! Move, move!" I wanted to tell them I could hear everything, that I was still there. But my lips would not part, and my voice was buried beneath the weight of silence. Inside the hospital, white light seared my vision. Doctors leaned over me, shouting codes and commands. I remember the sharp smell of antiseptic, the cold sting of an IV sliding into my arm. But then, nothing. A monitor flatlined. I had died. What came next was not darkness. It was not sleep. It was awareness unlike anything I had ever known. At first, I hovered above the scene. My body, pale, motionless, lay beneath a frantic swarm of nurses and doctors. My mother clutched my father's arm so tightly her knuckles turned white. She kept repeating one word, over and over through tears. Please. I wanted to touch her shoulder to tell her I was okay. But when I reached out, my hand passed through air that shimmered like water disturbed by stones. Then came the pull. It wasn't forceful, like someone dragging me by chains. It was gentle, yet irresistible. A tug from deep inside my chest, like a thread connected to something far beyond the ceiling, beyond the roof, beyond the sky itself. I slipped into silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of peace. Imagine the world muting every sound, every worry, every pain, until only calm remains. That was the silence that surrounded me. I drifted through it like a feather in still air. Then I saw it, a tunnel, not carved from stone, not built by human hands, but formed of pure light. The light wasn't blinding, it was alive. It wrapped around me like warmth you could touch, pulling me forward. Colors. I had no names for shimmered in the walls. Hues that didn't exist on Earth danced and pulsed as if they were alive. Music, or what felt like music, flowed without. Instruments, a harmony that resonated not in my ears, but in my soul. I felt weightless, free. But just as I began to surrender completely to the current, something else stirred. A presence. It wasn't like seeing another human. It was deeper, more real than any face I'd ever known. The presence didn't speak with words, yet I understood everything. It was as if my own thoughts had stepped aside to make room for something infinitely wiser. And then I felt him, Jesus. Had seen paintings in Sunday school, heard sermons, sung hymns with my family. But this was not the Jesus of books or pictures. This was a presence that radiated love so intense it threatened to undo me entirely. His gaze pierced me, yet it did not condemn. It healed. I wanted to fall, but there was no ground. I wanted to speak, but there were no words. only awe. He reached toward me, not with a hand of flesh, but with light, brilliance, and warmth. And though no words passed his lips, I heard him. Anna, there are things I need to show you. 3 sins that keep many from entering my kingdom. My breath, or whatever breath was in this new form, caught 3 sins. The words rang like bells in a cathedral, echoing inside me with both terror and wonder. I was just a girl, only 15. Why me? Why would he choose to show me this? Yet I knew. I knew in that instant that this wasn't about age, or merit, or knowledge. It was about message. The light around him grew brighter, and I felt a trembling inside me, as though the truth itself was about to unravel before my eyes. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I wanted to run, but there was nowhere to run. And in the depths of his gaze, I sensed the weight of what was coming. It wasn't just about me. It was about everyone. When I returned, lying once again in that hospital bed, the first words that tore from my lips weren't chosen. They exploded out of me like fire I couldn't contain. Jesus showed me 3 deadly sins. My voice cracked. My body ached. Doctors stared in disbelief. My parents clung to my hands as though holding me down would keep me alive. But I knew. I had seen. And what I was about to reveal would shake even the most certain hearts. Because the 3 sins weren't distant, foreign, or hidden in shadows. They were everywhere, even in me, even in us. The moment he spoke, the light around us shifted. It was as if the tunnel itself dissolved, and I was suddenly standing on the edge of something endless. The ground beneath me was not earth or stone, but a surface that shimmered like liquid glass, holding me though I weighed nothing at all. Around me stretched a horizon with no sky and no floor, only a brilliance that pulsed like a heartbeat. I was not afraid, but every part of me understood that this was no dream. This was more real than the life I had just left. Jesus did not move the way people move. He did not walk, yet he was closer when he wished to be, and distant when he wished me to see more. His presence was the center, and everything else obeyed his gravity. When he lifted his hand of light, I felt my soul lean toward him, as if I was drawn by a tide too strong to resist. Anna. His voice echoed without sound. Before I reveal these sins, you must understand the truth of where you are. I looked around. Shapes began to form, faint and translucent. At first I thought they were shadows, but they grew clearer with every breath I took. They were people, countless people, moving in silence, their faces pale, their eyes searching. Some walked forward into the light with joy that shone brighter than any star I had ever seen. Others turned away, retreating into the distance where a gray mist swallowed them whole. I wanted to reach for them, to ask where they were going, why their faces carried such sorrow. But Jesus held me with his gaze. You see them because you must know the weight of what I will show you. A sorrow deeper than grief filled my chest. Even though I did not know their names, I felt every story inside them. Their pain became mine. Their regrets pressed into me like invisible stones. I realized then that sin was not just breaking rules or disobeying commands. It was separation. A wall between them and the love that now wrapped around me. The music returned. Softer now, like 1,000 distant voices humming one single note. It rose and fell with the movement of the people. For those walking into the light, the note grew, sweet, like a song of homecoming. For those who turned away, the note sank into a cry that made my soul tremble. I lifted my eyes again to Jesus, and in him I found the calm I could not create on my own. His presence swallowed my despair the way the ocean swallows a single tear. He stepped closer, and though his lips did not move, I felt him speak again. Sin blinds, sin deafens. Sin convinces the heart that what is false is truth, and what is truth is a lie. But the greatest sorrow is not when the world sins. It is when those who call my name refuse to let go of it. I wanted to protest, to tell him I was only a girl, that I could not possibly carry this kind of revelation, but the words would not form. In his eyes I saw both the weight of eternity and the gentleness of a father. I understood then that he was not crushing me with truth. He was preparing me to carry it. The vision changed again. The glassy ground rippled like water, and suddenly we were moving though I had taken no step. Scenes unfolded before me, not like a movie on a screen, but like doors opening into other realities. I saw flashes of schools filled with children, laughter mixed with cruelty. I saw marketplaces bustling with trade, where coins passed from hand to hand like chains being fastened. I saw churches filled with voices singing, yet hearts beating hollow with indifference. Every image pierced me. Each one whispered of something I did not yet fully understand. Jesus turned to me again. 3 sins, he said. 3 that will keep many from the joy of my Father's house. You must see them as they are, not as the world paints them. The words rang in me like thunder rolling across mountains. My soul shook with both fear and anticipation. I did not know if I could bear to look. I did not know if I could survive. The truth he was about to unfold, yet I could not turn away. The brilliance around us grew brighter, sharper, almost unbearable. The people faded, the mist vanished, and there was only the light and his voice. My entire being leaned forward, desperate to know what he would show me next. And then, with a gaze that seemed to pierce into the very marrow of my soul, he whispered, "Now you will see the first." The moment he said those words, the world of light quivered as if holding its breath. I felt suspended between what I had been and what I was about to know. Jesus moved closer, and with every step that was not a step, the brightness surrounding him deepened. It was not only light, it was truth made visible, and it pressed against me until I felt every hidden thought inside my heart rise to the surface. Wanted to hide, to cover myself the way Adam and Eve once tried to cover themselves in the garden, but there was no leaf large enough to veil my soul here. Everything in me was laid bare, and yet his gaze did not condemn me. It was piercing, yes, but tender. I realized then that his love was not the kind of love that excused sin. It was the kind of love that burned through every lie, exposing the wound in order to heal it. Without a word, he lifted his hand, and the space around us shifted again. The glassy floor rippled, and suddenly I was standing in what looked like a mirror of earth. Streets stretched before me, houses lined with glowing windows, schools with children laughing, marketplaces filled with chatter, but it was not quite earth. Everything shimmered with an edge of the eternal, as though this was not the world itself, but the soul of the world. He pointed, and my vision sharpened on one group of people. At first they seemed ordinary, well-dressed, confident, smiling as they passed one another. Yet as I looked closer, I saw something terrifying. Their eyes were hollow. Their laughter was loud but empty, like bells with no clappers. Each one carried a crown, but the crowns were not given. They were self-made, crafted from pride and ambition. Do you see? His voice resonated through me. I swallowed hard. Yes, but I don't understand. He stepped nearer, and the hollow laughter of the people dimmed. This is the first sin, he said. Pride, the desire to place oneself above others, even above me. It blinds the eyes and hardens the heart. As he spoke, the scene shifted. I saw students in classrooms mocking the weak, puffing themselves up with knowledge that was shallow but loud. I saw business leaders stepping on the poor to climb ladders made of greed. I saw families torn apart because no one would bow in humility, each one demanding to be right, to be greatest. And then I saw myself. It was a moment from my own school days, just months earlier. A girl in my class had stumbled while reading aloud. The others giggled, and though I didn't laugh out loud, I smirked. I had felt superior for not stumbling, for knowing the answer. Pride. It seemed so small then, but standing in this light, I saw it for what it truly was. A seed of the same sin that had destroyed angels, the same arrogance that had toppled kingdoms. Shame gripped me, but Jesus' eyes held me steady. Do not look away, he said. See it and learn. The visions came faster now. Preachers standing in pulpits, delivering sermons not to glorify God, but to glorify themselves. Children refusing correction because they believed they knew better. Nations at war. Each side claiming righteousness, neither side bowing to truth. Pride tells the soul that it needs no savior, Jesus said. It whispers that your throne is higher, your wisdom greater, your way best. It blinds, until even when the gates of heaven stand open, the proud cannot see them. I trembled. Every part of me wanted to fall to my knees, but I had no knees in this form. My soul bent instead, broken under the weight of what I now understood. Tears, though not like earthly tears, flowed from me. They shimmered like droplets of light, falling into the glassy ground and disappearing as though swallowed by eternity. I never knew, I whispered. You must know, he replied gently. For many will not enter because of this sin. It keeps their hearts locked, their eyes shut, their ears deaf. Even when I knock, they do not hear. Even when I call, they do not answer. The vision slowed, and once again, I stood in the brilliance of his presence. But the weight of what I had seen clung to me. Pride was not rare. It was everywhere. In schools, in homes, in churches, in me. It was a poison spread so wide that no one was untouched. Anna, Jesus said, and his voice was like both thunder and a lullaby. You must tell them. Humility is the key. To bow low is not to be crushed. It is to be lifted. Tell them. Pride will close the door that humility opens. I nodded, though my whole being quivered. I felt so small, so unworthy, but I knew I could not deny what I had been shown. The truth was too heavy to keep to myself. As the light around him softened slightly, he looked deeper into me, as if to be sure I had understood. Then he said, But pride is only the first. There are two. More, and they will wound you even more deeply to see. A chill swept through me, though there was no cold here. If the first sin had broken me this much, what would the others do? Yet I could not turn away. I could not refuse him. His hand of light lifted again, and the horizon began to ripple with new images forming. Now, he said, I will show you the second. The light shifted again, rippling like water disturbed by a sudden wind. My chest tightened as the brilliance around Jesus deepened, and I knew we were moving toward the next revelation. He did not need to say it, but I felt it inside me like a drumbeat. The second sin was coming. The mirror of the world unfolded once more, but now it was not classrooms or families that I saw. It was markets, streets, tall glass buildings shimmering like towers of wealth. People hurried with their hands full, bags heavy with possessions, pockets lined with coins that glittered like fire. Their faces glowed with triumph, but beneath, the glow was something darker. At first, I thought I was simply watching the ordinary rhythm of life. People buying, selling, celebrating success. But as my eyes adjusted, the truth became clear. Every coin they held turned into a shackle around their wrists. Every jewel they wore grew heavier, pulling their bodies downward until their spines curved under the weight. The more they gathered, the more bent they became, their smiles cracking into grimaces of strain. I wanted to cry out, to tell them to drop it all, but they clung tighter. They thought the chains were treasures. They thought the weight was honor. This, Jesus said, his voice a flame of sorrow, is the second sin, the love of money, the thirst for possession, the worship of what was never meant to last. As he spoke, the scene sharpened. I saw men and women working endlessly, their families waiting at home, hungry for attention that never came. I saw children growing in the shadows of absent parents who chased promotions and paychecks, thinking it would buy them peace. I saw churches filled with golden decorations, where hearts were empty while coffers overflowed. Everywhere I looked, the chains grew thicker. People collapsed under them, and yet even as they fell, they reached for more. I felt the crushing weight of it pressing into me, though I held nothing in my hands. Why do they do this? I whispered, my voice breaking. Jesus turned his gaze toward me, and for a moment the brilliance of his light dimmed to something softer, so that I could bear the weight of his answer. Because they believe these things can fill the emptiness only I can fill. They believe coins can buy love. They believe possessions can buy eternal rest. But when the hour comes, all they hold slips through their fingers like dust. Yet their souls still cling, and the chains drag them away. The words pierced me deeper than any sword could. Again the vision changed, and I saw myself. A birthday just the year before, when my parents had surprised me with gifts. I remembered how my heart had been more eager for the new phone in the box than for the arms that wrapped around me. I remembered the thrill of showing it off to my friends, pride swelling not because of their love, but because of what I owned. It was small compared to the riches I now saw crushing others, but it was the same seed. Shame filled me. Tears returned, hot and relentless. I wanted to rip the memory from my soul, but Jesus' eyes held me steady once more. Do not look away, he said again. What seems small now grows into mountains that bury the heart. What seems harmless now becomes a fire that consumes the soul. Love of money is never satisfied. It whispers, just one more coin, just one more step, until the soul has walked away from my presence entirely. The images came faster. Wealthy leaders clutching power, watching nations starve while their tables overflowed. Teenagers obsessed with fashion, spending hours before mirrors but never glancing at the lonely eyes of their own siblings. Families fighting, siblings dividing, because of inheritance that turned their bloodline into a battlefield. Everywhere, the love of money-hardened hearts, blinded eyes, silenced compassion. I fell inward, folding under the truth of it. My whole being cried out, "I don't want this, Lord. Please, I don't want to be chained." And he reached to me with his hand of light, lifting me. In his touch, the shame melted into resolve. "Then tell them, Anna. Tell them the treasure of heaven is not coins but compassion. Not jewels, but justice. Not possessions, but presence with me. Tell them before it is too late." I nodded, trembling but willing. My chest burned with urgency. I wanted to scream the warning into every ear on earth. Jesus' gaze deepened. "But there is one more sin," he said, his tone heavier now, like a storm forming on the horizon. "The third cuts deeper still, for it hides in places where even the faithful refuse to look." A chill spread through me. If pride had broken me and greed had crushed me, what would this third sin do? The light swirled around us, brighter, sharper, preparing the way. And his final words echoed in me like thunder. "Now you will see the last." The light surrounding us deepened until it felt as if I stood inside the heart of a star. My soul quivered beneath its brilliance, yet I could not turn away. I knew this was the last of the 3 sins, the one Jesus had said would wound me most deeply. My spirit trembled, wondering what could be more crushing than pride or greed. Then the visions began. At first, I saw people gathered in churches, their hands raised, their voices echoing in hymns. The melodies were strong, their words rehearsed. But when I looked closer, their eyes were hollow. Their lips moved, but their hearts were cold. They sang to be seen, they prayed to be admired, and their devotion was a mask. The moment the service ended, their love vanished like smoke, and their hearts returned to indifference. "This," Jesus said, his voice heavy with grief, "is the third sin. Hypocrisy, a faith without love, words without life." The vision shifted and I saw families sitting around dinner tables, each person staring at glowing screens, ignoring the living souls beside them. Smiles plastered on social media, but silence hung heavy in their homes. They presented images of perfection, while love itself starved in the shadows. The scene changed again, and I saw men and women preaching in pulpits with fiery voices. Crowds cheered, donations poured in, but their hearts were not set on truth. Their mouths spoke my name, but their lives betrayed me. Their hands reached for applause, not for the broken. Their sermons were ladders for their own fame. I wanted to cry out, but no sound came. It was as if the weight of every false word ever spoken pressed into my chest. Jesus' eyes pierced me. Hypocrisy destroys more than open rebellion. For those who hate truth are less dangerous than those who claim to love it while living in lies. Hypocrisy tells the world that I am a mask, a performance, a costume. And when they see this, their faith withers, their hope dies. Tears flooded from me. I remembered moments in my own life, even at 15. Times when I had bowed my head in prayer, not to speak to God, but to make my parents proud. Times I had sung loudly in church just to be noticed. While my mind drifted elsewhere, they seemed small then, harmless, but in his presence they burned like fire. I collapsed inward, undone. My soul bent low, crying, I didn't know. Lord, I didn't know. But Jesus reached for me again. His hand of light touched the core of me, and his love poured through the cracks of my shame. Now you do, he said, and you must tell them. Hypocrisy is a thief. It steals the witness of my people. It drives the lost away. It blinds the believer. Tell them, I do not seek performances. I seek hearts, not masks, but truth. The vision swirled faster, a flood of images. Children imitating faith they did not believe in, because their parents only acted in front of others. Leaders exposed in secret sins, while their followers stumbled in disillusionment. Whole communities shattered because those who wore my name refused to live my love. I could barely endure it. The weight was unbearable. Yet beneath it, I sensed his sorrow was not meant to destroy me, but to awaken me. His grief was not against me, but against the lies that chained so many. The brilliance softened slightly, enough for me to breathe again. Jesus' eyes remained fixed on me, unshaken, unyielding, full of both mercy and fire. Anna, pride blinds. Greed binds, but hypocrisy poisons. It infects every word, every deed, until truth itself is doubted. These 3 sins are heavy, and many who call my name are shackled by them. But you must tell them. Humility, compassion, and sincerity will open the way. Without these, the door will remain shut. I shook with both fear and awe. My chest ached with the truth of it. The sins he revealed were not distant evils. They were everywhere. They were in me, in my family, in my friends, in the world around me. None of us were untouched. I wanted to hide, but I also wanted to shout the warning to every soul still breathing on earth. My voice rose inside me, silent yet desperate. Lord, how can I carry this? I'm only 15. Who will listen to me? He leaned closer, his presence pressing into me like the weight of the universe itself. Yet it was not crushing. It was steadying. Do not fear, Anna. Your voice is not yours alone. I will be with you. Tell what you have seen, and leave the rest to me. I breathed in, though there was no air here. I let his words settle deep, engraving themselves into the marrow of my soul. And I knew I could not stay here forever. My mission was not complete. The light around us rippled again, preparing to shift. Jesus spoke once more, his tone both tender and commanding. You have seen the 3. Pride that blinds, greed that binds, hypocrisy that poisons. Now you must choose, Anna. Will you return and speak, or will you remain here in silence? My soul shook. To remain meant peace, warmth, the endless presence of his love. To return meant pain, doubt, the weight of a message many would mock. My heart wavered, torn between the eternal and the fragile world I had left. But deep inside me, something rose, courage not my own. I lifted my gaze to him and whispered, I will return. I will tell them." His eyes shone brighter, and in his light I felt both approval and sorrow. Approval for my choice, sorrow for the cost. The brilliance around me flared one last time, and the visions faded into darkness. The pull of gravity returned, heavy and relentless, dragging me back to the world I had left behind. The moment I chose to return, everything shifted. The brilliance of heaven that had wrapped me like a warm garment began to loosen, unraveling thread by thread. The music faded into a silence so complete, it felt like the universe itself was holding its breath. The light dimmed, not into darkness, but into distance, as if I were being pulled away from the heart of eternity. At first I resisted. My soul cried out for one more glance, one more heartbeat in his presence. Every part of me longed to stay, but the pull was stronger than my desire. It was gravity, heavy and undeniable, drawing me back to the world I had left behind. I felt myself sinking, falling, compressing. The weight of the body I had abandoned returned all at once. Pain stabbed through me like knives. My lungs ached as though fire filled them, my chest convulsed with violent force. For a moment I could not tell if I was alive or trapped in some cruel imitation of life. Then I heard it. Voices, urgent, panicked, overlapping. Doctors shouting numbers, nurses calling for instruments. My mother's voice crying louder than all the others. "Please, don't take her, please." I wanted to answer her, to tell her I had seen Jesus, that he had shown me 3 sins that weighed heavier than death itself. But my mouth was heavy, my tongue bound. Someone shouted, "We've got a rhythm." Another cried, "She's coming back." Electric shocks surged through my chest, jolting me like lightning. My soul slammed into flesh that no longer felt like mine. I gasped, and air rushed in, sharp and burning, as if I had swallowed fire. My body arched, trembling violently, before collapsing back against the bed. The room spun. Lights seared my eyes. Machines beeped in chaotic rhythm. Yet through it all, one truth roared inside me. I had seen, I had heard, and I could not stay silent. My lips parted, cracked and weak, but the words burst out of me with a force that startled even me. "Jesus showed me 3 deadly sins!" Gasps filled the room. A nurse dropped her clipboard. My mother clutched my hand, sobbing and laughing at the same time. My father pressed his forehead against mine, whispering thanks over and over. The doctors exchanged bewildered glances, shaking their heads. One of them muttered under his breath, "There's no way she should be awake." But I was awake. And I remembered.